Come and witness what failure looks like. Those were the exact words Chukwudi Nwosu typed into his Instagram post, accompanied by a wedding invitation addressed to his ex-wife. The man who now called himself Lagos's tech king wanted her there, at his wedding, to another woman. He wanted Amara small, broken, ashamed, a shadow standing in the corner while he married her former best friend in front of 500 guests and 100,000 live stream viewers. And the internet? The internet ate it up. Laughed, shared, commented. Savage move, they said. This man is ruthless. What Chukwudi never knew, what none of them knew, was that the woman he invited to shame carried documents powerful enough to turn his wedding day into his funeral. Evidence that would expose every lie he'd built his empire on. Proof that, when revealed, would leave not just the wedding hall speechless, but the entire nation. Sometimes the one you try to humiliate is the very one holding your destiny in her hands. Sometimes an invitation to your downfall looks exactly like an invitation to a wedding.
African Karma Stories.
The year was 2018, March. Lagos was in the middle of one of those heat waves that made the city feel like it was holding its breath. Amara sat alone in the sitting room of their Lekki home, the kind of house that screamed new money, marble floors, floor-to-ceiling windows, furniture imported from Italy. Everything her husband Chukwudi had insisted they needed to look the part. The air conditioning hummed, but Amara felt cold. Her phone sat on the glass coffee table in front of her, the screen still glowing with the image that had just destroyed her world. A photo. Chukwudi and Zainab, her best friend, her bridesmaid, the woman who'd helped her choose her wedding dress 6 years ago, holding hands at a restaurant in Victoria Island. Not hiding, not ashamed, smiling at the camera like they'd already won. The picture had been sent to her by an unknown number with just 3 words. "I'm so sorry." Amara's hands trembled as she picked up the phone again, zooming in on their faces. Zainab wore the diamond bracelet Chukwudi claimed he couldn't afford for their anniversary last year. "Business is tight, baby," he'd said then. "You understand." But apparently, business wasn't too tight for this. She heard the front door open, the familiar sound of his Italian leather shoes on the marble. Click, click, click. Chukwudi walked in, his suit sharp enough to cut glass, his tie loosened just so, smelling of expensive cologne and something else, something that didn't belong to their home. He looked like a man who didn't have a single worry in the world. Amara stood, the phone clutched in her hand. Her voice came out steadier than she felt. "Chukwudi?" He raised an eyebrow, not even glancing at her as he tossed his keys under the side table. "Amara, you're still awake?" She held out the phone. The picture glowed between them like evidence at a crime scene. "Is it true? You and Zainab? My best friend? My bridesmaid? The woman who helped me choose my wedding dress 6 years ago?" Chukwudi glanced at the photo. For just a second, one tiny second, something flickered across his face. Then it was gone, replaced with something worse than anger. Boredom. He sighed. Actually sighed. Like she was a child asking stupid questions. "Amara, don't be dramatic." "Dramatic?" Her voice cracked despite her best efforts. "You're in a photo with my best friend, holding her hand like I don't exist? And you're telling me not to be dramatic?" He loosened his tie completely, walking past her toward the bar in the corner, poured himself a whiskey, took a slow sip, made her wait. "Look," he finally said, his back still to her. "Things between us haven't been working for a while now. You know that." "No." The word came out sharp. "No, I don't know that. What I know is that I have stood by you for 8 years? I used my family's money to help start your business when you had nothing but an idea and a dream. I kept your books. I made your connections. I built that company with you." He turned then, and the look in his eyes made her stomach drop. It wasn't guilt. It wasn't even anger. It was pity. "You helped, yes," he said slowly, like he was explaining something to a slow student. "But Amara, let's be honest here. You were never the kind of woman who could keep up with me. I'm building an empire now. I'm in rooms with ministers, with CEOs, with people who matter. And you?" He paused, let the silence cut. "You're stuck. Zainab understands ambition. She makes me look stronger. You never did." The words hit like physical blows. Amara felt her chest tighten, felt the room tilt slightly. "I gave you everything. I stood by you when you had nothing. I believed in you when nobody else did. And I'm grateful." He cut her off, his voice like ice now, all pretense of warmth gone. "Really, I am. But gratitude doesn't build empires, Amara. You served your purpose. Now, it's time to move on." Served her purpose. Like she was an employee, a tool, something to be used and discarded when a better model came along. "So that's it?" Her voice was shaking now, her whole body trembling. 8 years of marriage thrown away for ambition? Chukwudi set down his glass with a decisive click. Upgraded. The casual cruelty of those words, the ease with which he said them, made something crack inside her chest. "The divorce papers are being prepared," he continued, checking his watch like this conversation was keeping him from something important. "My lawyer will contact you next week. I'd appreciate it if you'd sign them without drama. Make this easy for both of us." "Easy?" She almost laughed. Almost. "You're asking me to make this easy?" "I'm asking you to be realistic." His tone shifted, harder now. "You're not going to win this, Amara. My lawyers are the best in Lagos. You'll sign those papers, take what I'm willing to give you, and move on with your life. That's how this ends." He picked up his keys, his phone, and started walking toward the stairs, toward their bedroom like he still had the right to sleep there. "Oh, and Amara." He paused on the third step, glanced back over his shoulder. "I'd prefer if you were gone by the time I come back from my trip next week. The house is in my name. I'm sure you understand." And then he was gone. Up the stairs, into the bedroom. Like he hadn't just ended 8 years with the emotional investment of canceling a subscription service. Amara stood in that enormous sitting room, surrounded by marble and Italian furniture, and all the trappings of success she had helped him build, and felt herself break. Not collapse, not scream, just break. Quietly. Completely. The woman who believed in him when he was nobody, who sacrificed her own career ambitions to support his, who smiled through family dinners when his mother made snide comments about her not giving them grandchildren yet, who kept the books balanced and the investors happy while he took all the credit. That woman shattered in the silence of a Lekki mansion that never really was hers at all. But here's what Chukwudi didn't know, what he couldn't have known as he climbed those stairs, confident in his victory, certain of his power. Amara kept records. Every transaction, every contract, every receipt and every email and every single naira her family had invested in his business. She kept records because she was good at numbers, because she was thorough, because some part of her, even in love, had learned to protect herself. And in the coming years, those records would become the foundation of her revenge. But that night in March 2018, standing alone in a house that was never really hers at all, married to a man who'd never truly loved her, Amara didn't know she'd rise again. She only knew she'd fallen. And the fall, as they say, was just the beginning.
What happened next wasn't just a divorce. It was a destruction campaign. Chukwudi moved with the precision of a man who'd planned this for months, maybe years. His lawyers, the kind that charged more per hour than most Lagosians made in a month, descended on Amara like a storm. Within 2 weeks, she received the papers. Thick, legal, cold. Page after page of clauses that painted her as a dependent spouse who'd contributed nothing of value to the marriage, a liability, dead weight. The settlement they offered was insulting. 2 million naira. That's about $5,000 for 8 years of her life. For the 50 million her family had invested, for the connections she'd made, the books she'd balanced, the foundation she'd built. Her lawyer, a kind older man named Mr. Taiwo, read through the documents with increasing horror. Amara, he said slowly, looking up at her over his reading glasses, they're claiming you made no financial contribution to the business, that your family's investment was a gift, not capital. She sat across from him in his small office in Surulere, feeling numb. But I have receipts, bank transfers, emails. They're saying those documents are forgeries. His voice was gentle, but the truth was brutal. And Amara, I have to be honest with you. Chukwudi has hired Adeyemi Partners. They're the most ruthless firm in Lagos. They'll drag this out for years. They'll bury you in legal fees until you give up. So what do I do? Mr. Taiwo removed his glasses, rubbed his face, looked at her with something like pity. You sign. You take what they're offering, and you rebuild. She signed 3 days later, in that same small office, with shaking hands, watching 8 years of her life reduced to a signature on a dotted line. But the humiliation was only beginning. Chukwudi didn't just want the divorce. He wanted everyone to know why. He wanted the narrative controlled, shaped, weaponized against her. The media campaign started within a week. It began with an interview in This Day Style magazine, a glossy 6-page spread with professional photos of Chukwudi in his Victoria Island office, looking every inch the self-made man. The headline screamed, "How I Built My Empire. Chukwudi Nwosu on ambition, sacrifice, and leaving the past behind." Amara bought a copy from a newspaper vendor near her new apartment, a tiny one-bedroom in Surulere that smelled like old paint and crushed dreams. She read the interview standing right there on the street, unable to move. "My ex-wife is a good woman," Chukwudi told the interviewer, his words dripping with false magnanimity. "But good isn't enough when you're building something great. She wanted a simple life. I wanted empire. Sometimes you have to make difficult choices. Sometimes you have to leave people behind who can't keep pace with your vision." Leave people behind. Like she was slow. Like she was the problem. There was no mention of her family's money, no mention of the years she'd spent balancing his books while he networked, no mention of the contracts she'd drafted, the investors she'd called, the nights she had stayed up fixing his mistakes. Just, she couldn't keep up.
The blogs picked it up immediately. Linda Ikeji, Bella Ninja. Every gossip site in Lagos ran versions of the story. And the comments, God, the comments. "Smart man, never let a woman hold you back. She probably got comfortable and stopped taking care of herself. Zainab is an upgrade in every way. Can't blame him." Some were crueler, much crueler. But Amara stopped reading after the first few dozen. What was the point? The internet had made up its mind. She was the bitter ex-wife who couldn't handle her husband's success. Then Zainab started posting. It began subtly. A photo of a diamond bracelet with the caption, "When he just knows your taste." the same bracelet from that first photo. Then a selfie in what was clearly Chukwudi's car. Then a photo at Nwosu Tech Solutions office with "Building Empires with My King" as the caption. Each post was a knife. Each caption a message meant specifically for Amara. But the worst came 3 weeks after the divorce was finalized. Zainab posted a photo of herself and Chukwudi at a restaurant, the same restaurant where Amara and Chukwudi had celebrated their 5th anniversary. Same table. She knew because she recognized the art on the wall behind them. The caption read, "Finally experiencing what real love looks like. No insecurity, no holding each other back, just two ambitious people building together. Grateful for upgrades." Upgrades. The post went viral. 50,000 likes, thousands of comments praising them, calling them couple goals, calling their love inspiring. Amara sat in her small apartment in Surulere, the Wi-Fi cutting in and out, eating rice and stew she cooked on a portable gas stove, and watched her former best friend become an Instagram sensation by dancing on the grave of their friendship. But even that wasn't the deepest cut. That came from family. Her phone rang one evening. Her brother, Obina. She answered with relief flooding through her. Finally, someone who understood, someone on her side. "Obi," she said, her voice breaking slightly, "I'd been trying to reach you." "Amara." His voice was tight, uncomfortable. "We need to talk." Yes, please. This whole thing, it's been..." "What are you doing?" He cut her off. She froze. "What?" "This thing with Chukwudi, people are saying you're trying to drag his name through the mud, that you're bitter, that you're making up stories about contributing to his business." Her stomach dropped. "Obi, those aren't stories. You know our family gave him 50 million naira. You were there when Papa wrote the check." "That was a gift, Amara, to help your marriage. It was an investment for the business. I have the paperwork. Do you?" His voice hardened. "Because Chukwudi's lawyers are saying all your documents are fake. And honestly, Amara, I'm starting to wonder if you're just making things up because you can't accept that he's moved on." She couldn't breathe. Her own brother, her blood. "Obi, how can you say that? You know me. You know I wouldn't..." "What I know is that Chukwudi offered me a position at his company, senior developer, 6 million naira a year. It's the opportunity of a lifetime, Amara, and you're trying to destroy him with lies?" "They're not lies." "Then why are you the only one saying them? Everyone else sees what he's built. Everyone else sees his success. Maybe he really did outgrow you. Maybe you need to accept that and stop trying to tear him down." Tears burned hot down her cheeks. "So you're choosing him over your own sister for a job?" "I'm choosing my future," Obina said coldly, "and you should do the same instead of clinging to the past. Stop calling me if all you're going to do is badmouth him. I don't want to be part of your bitterness." The line went dead. Amara sat in the darkness of her apartment, phone still pressed to her ear, and felt something inside her die. Not her heart, she'd already lost that. This was something deeper. Hope, maybe. The belief that family meant something, that blood was thicker than ambition. Her own brother had sold her for 6 million naira and a job title. But even that wasn't rock bottom. Rock bottom came 2 months later, at the tech conference. It was held at Echo Hotel, the same place where years later Chukwudi would hold his wedding. The same place where everything would come full circle. But Amara didn't know that yet. All she knew was that she'd been invited to speak on a panel about women in finance. A small victory, a tiny bit of visibility. Maybe, she thought, maybe this was the beginning of her comeback. She wore her best outfit, a simple but elegant dress she'd bought back when money wasn't tight, did her makeup carefully, practiced her talking points, arrived early. The panel was in the afternoon, but during lunch there was a keynote speech by Chukwudi Nwosu. Amara sat in the back of the ballroom, trapped. She couldn't leave without making a scene, couldn't stay without feeling sick. So she sat, frozen, as her ex-husband took the stage to thunderous applause. He looked good, confident, powerful, like a man who'd conquered the world. "Thank you,"
he said, his voice booming through the speakers. "It's an honor to be here, to share my journey with all of you." He talked about innovation, about disruption, about having the courage to take risks. The audience was captivated, hanging on every word. Then he said it. "My journey hasn't been easy. I've had to make difficult choices. I've had to cut ties with people who, while good, were simply not built for the level I was trying to reach." A pause, a smile. His eyes scanned the room and landed directly on Amara. He knew she was there. Of course he knew. "As for my past, let's just say I was weighed down by someone who couldn't keep up. But now, with the right partner, with Zainab by my side, I'm finally free to rise to the level I was always meant for. Sometimes you have to leave dead weight behind to truly soar." The room erupted in applause, laughter, admiration. Amara sat perfectly still as cameras flashed and people cheered. Dead weight. That's what she'd become in his story. Not the woman who invested in him, not the wife who had supported him, not the financial analyst who had kept his company alive. Dead weight. Someone whispered behind her, not quietly enough, "That's his ex-wife. Can you imagine being called dead weight in front of all these people?" Someone else giggled. "I'd die of shame." Amara stood. She didn't run, didn't cry, just stood, walked out of that ballroom with her head high and made it exactly as far as the bathroom before her legs gave out. She sat on the floor of that five-star hotel bathroom, marble cold against her back, designer toilet stalls gleaming around her, and finally let herself break completely. This was it. This was rock bottom. Not just divorced, not just poor, not just betrayed. Humiliated. Publicly, deliberately, casually. Turned into a punchline at a tech conference while people laughed and applauded the man who destroyed her. Her phone buzzed. A text from the panel coordinator. "Where are you? You're on in 15 minutes." Amara looked at herself in the bathroom mirror. Makeup smudged, eyes red, looking every bit like the dead weight her ex-husband had just described. She texted back, "I'm sorry, I can't make it. Family emergency." Then she turned off her phone, left through the side exit, and took a bus back to Surulere. That night, in her small apartment with the flickering lights and thin walls, Amara Okafor made a decision. Not revenge. Not yet. She was too broken for revenge. Just survival. Just the next breath, and then the one after that. But here's what she didn't know, couldn't know, as she lay in that small bed, in that small room, in that moment of her smallest self. Sometimes the person you become in the pit is stronger than the person you were at the top. Sometimes rock bottom is just the foundation for your empire. And sometimes the dead weight people discard is actually the anchor they threw away right before the storm. Chukwudi Nwosu had just made the biggest mistake of his life. He just wouldn't know it. For 4 more years.
6 months passed. 6 months of Amara Okafor living in that small Surulere apartment, eating beans and rice most nights, stretching every naira until it screamed. 6 months of job applications sent into the void. 6 months of watching her savings, the pathetic settlement from the divorce, dwindle like water through her fingers. The problem wasn't that she lacked skills. She had a degree from University of Lagos, 8 years of experience managing complex financial systems. She could read a balance sheet like most people read novels. The problem was the whisper network. In Lagos, reputation is currency, and hers had been shredded. Every interview went the same way. They'd be interested until they Googled her name, until they saw the connection to Chukwudi Nwosu, until they read the articles about the bitter ex-wife who couldn't keep up. One interviewer actually said it to her face. "Miss Okafor, your credentials are impressive, but we've heard you've been making accusations against your ex-husband about
financial contributions you claim to have made. We're looking for someone who's, well, focused on the future, not stuck in the past. She'd left that office feeling something shift inside her. Not break this time. Harden. By month 7, her savings account had 200,000 naira left. Maybe 2 months before she couldn't pay rent. Maybe 3 if she stopped eating properly. That's when her friend Ngozi showed up at her door unannounced, carrying 2 bags of groceries and fire in her eyes. Ngozi Adeleke had been Amara's university roommate, a lawyer now, sharp as broken glass, with a tongue to match. She'd warned Amara about Chukwudi from the beginning. That man loves himself more than he'll ever love you, she'd said at the wedding. Amara hadn't listened. Now Ngozi dumped the groceries on the small kitchen counter and turned to face her friend. How long were you planning to starve before calling me? I'm not starving, Ngozi. You've lost weight. Your clothes are hanging off of you, and I know for a fact you've been living on gari and groundnuts because I asked your neighbor. Amara almost smiled. Almost. You interrogated my neighbor? I'm a lawyer. I interrogate everyone. Ngozi started unpacking rice, chicken, vegetables, proper food. Now sit down. We're talking. They talked for 3 hours. Ngozi listened as Amara explained the job rejections, the dwindling money, the suffocating feeling that she'd never escape Chukwudi's shadow. When she finished, Ngozi was quiet for a long moment. Then she pulled out her phone. I know someone, Mr. Johnson Okonkwo. He runs an investment firm in Ikoyi. Small operation, but legitimate. He's looking for someone to restructure his portfolio. I'm sending him your CV right now. Ngozi, if he Googles me, he will, and I'm telling him to do so. I'm also telling him that you're the smartest financial mind I know, that you built a tech company from the ground up, even if you didn't get credit for it, and that anyone who passes on you is a fool. She hit send with emphasis. There, done. He won't call. We'll see. Mr. Okonkwo called the next morning. 3 days later, Amara sat in his office in Ikoyi, an old building, not fancy, but solid, real, the kind of place where actual work happened instead of just image management. Johnson Okonkwo was in his late 50s, gray-haired, with reading glasses perched on his nose and the look of a man who'd seen every trick in the book twice. He studied her CV, then looked up at her over those glasses. I Googled you. Her heart sunk. Sir, if I could just explain, you were married to Chukwudi Nwosu. It wasn't a question. Yes. Built his company with him in the early days. Yes. Got nothing in the divorce. That's correct. He leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled. I knew Chukwudi when he was nobody. Came to me for investment in 2015. Turned him down. Know why? I can't imagine, sir. Because his numbers didn't make sense. The projections were ambitious, sure, but the financial foundation? Weak. Sloppy. Full of holes. Then I saw him a year later. Same pitch, basically, but the numbers were clean, professional, actually viable. You know what I think? What? I think someone with real financial sense fixed those numbers. Someone who actually understood accounting instead of just understanding ego. He leaned forward. That someone was you, wasn't it? Amara felt something crack in her chest. Validation. After months of being called a liar, bitter, delusional, someone saw the truth. Yes, she whispered. It was me. Thought so. He slid a folder across the desk. My firm is a mess right now. My previous analyst retired. I've got properties all over Lagos. Lakey, VI, even some in Abuja. But my books are chaos. I need someone to make sense of it all. Find the value, cut the dead weight, make me profitable again. He paused. I'm offering you 400,000 a month to start. Prove yourself, and we'll talk about partnership percentages.
400,000 naira. It wasn't much by her old standards, but right now it felt like a lifeline. Sir, I don't know what to say. Say yes, then get to work. She said yes. Amara started the next Monday. Mr. Okonkwo's office gave her a desk, a laptop, and access to his files. What she found was exactly what he'd described: chaos. Investments scattered across a dozen properties with no clear tracking system, some profitable, some bleeding money. No analysis of market trends, no optimization. It was a mess. It was also exactly what she needed. For the first time in months, Amara felt her brain come alive. This was what she was good at, not being someone's wife, not looking pretty at events. This. Numbers, patterns, strategy. She worked 12-hour days, found inefficiencies, discovered that 3 of Mr. Okonkwo's properties were actually sitting on gold, underdeveloped land in areas about to boom. Lekki Phase 2 was expanding. Smart investors were buying low before the infrastructure came in. Within 2 months, she'd reorganized his entire portfolio, cut 5 underperforming assets, convinced him to invest more heavily in the Lekki expansion zone. One afternoon, Mr. Okonkwo walked into her office carrying a bottle of champagne. "We just closed the Lekki deal you recommended. Projected returns, 40% in 2 years. He set the bottle on her desk. "You just made me a very wealthy man, Amara." She looked up from her spreadsheets. "That's the job, sir." "No," he shook his head. "That's genius. And I'm raising your salary to $700,000 effective immediately, plus 5% of the profits from any deal you source." 5%? That was partnership money, real money. "Thank you," she managed. "Don't thank me. You earned it." He turned to leave, then paused. "You know what Chukwudi's biggest mistake was?" "What?" "Thinking presentation mattered more than foundation. He's flashy, you're solid. In the long run, solid always wins." After he left, Amara sat at her desk in that Okoye office and felt something she hadn't felt in almost a year. Hope. Not the desperate, clinging hope of someone drowning. The real kind. The kind built on evidence, on results, on her own competence that no one could take away. She was good at this. Better than good. And slowly, carefully, she was building something. 18 months into working for Mr. Okonkwo, Amara made her first independent investment. A property. Nothing fancy, a run-down apartment building in Surulere, the same neighborhood where she'd hit rock bottom. The owner was desperate to sell, needed cash fast. Everyone else saw a liability. Amara saw potential. She'd saved every naira from her profit percentages, borrowed the rest from Mr. Okonkwo, who trusted her judgment now without question. Bought the building for 15 million naira. When Nosy came to see it, she was horrified. "Amara, this place is a disaster. The roof leaks, the plumbing is ancient. Half the units are empty." "I know." "So why did you buy it?" Amara smiled, small, knowing. "Because this neighborhood is about to change. The new rail line extension is coming through here in 2 years. Property values are going to triple, maybe quadruple." "How do you know that?" "I read the Lagos State development plans, the ones buried in government websites that nobody actually reads. I turned to look at the building, seeing not what it was, but what it would become. I buy this now for 15 million, renovate for another 5, rent it out to young professionals who can't afford Lekki. In 3 years, when the rail line is operational, I sell for 60 million, maybe more." Nosy stared at her. "When did you become this person?" "When I stopped crying and started calculating." Amara renovated that building herself. Not physically, she hired contractors. But she managed every naira, negotiated every price, chose every finish. Modern but affordable. Quality but practical. Within 6 months, every unit was rented out. Young people starting their Lagos journey. People like her 18 months ago. People who needed a chance. She charged fair rent. Not exploitative. She remembered what it felt like to count naira for transport money. But she also kept immaculate records. Every receipt, every payment, every contract.
She'd learned that lesson the hard way. 2 years into her rise, Mr. Okonkwo called her into his office. "Sit down, Amara. We need to talk." She sat, nervous despite herself. "I'm retiring," he said simply. "My wife wants to move to Abuja, be closer to the grandchildren. I'm done with the Lagos hustle." Her heart sunk. This job had saved her. "I understand, sir. Thank you for everything you've—" "I'm offering you the firm." She stopped breathing. "What?" "Okonkwo and Associates. I'm offering you 49% partnership. We restructure, change the name if you want, but you run it. You make the decisions. I stay on as silent partner, collect my percentage, and play with my grandchildren." He smiled. "What do you say?" "Sir, I don't have the capital for 49% of—" "Consider it sweat equity. You've tripled my net worth in 2 years. I'd say that's payment enough." He slid papers across the desk. "Besides, I'm a good judge of character, and I know talent when I see it. You're going to build something extraordinary, Amara. I want my name attached to that."
She signed the papers with shaking hands. At 32 years old, Amara Okafor became part owner of an investment firm. The same year, her ex-husband's face was on the cover of Forbes Africa as Tech Entrepreneur of the Year. She saw that magazine cover in a shop at the airport, Chukwudi, smiling that confident smile. Zainab beside him in the photo, captioned as, "The woman behind the man." 2 years ago, that image would have destroyed her, would have sent her spiraling into self-doubt and pain. Now she looked at it and felt nothing. No anger, no jealousy, no pain. Just cold, calculating interest. Because in 2 years of rebuilding herself, Amara had learned something crucial about Lagos business. Everything was connected. Every company relied on suppliers, contractors, partners. And Chukwudi's empire, impressive as it looked, had foundations she recognized. Because she'd helped build them. That night, in her new office in Ikoyi, small but hers, with the view of the Lagos skyline, Amara opened a file she had been keeping. Every business registration document for Chukwudi's company, every contract from the early days, every bank record she'd saved before the divorce. And now, with her new access to investment networks, she could see something else. The web of companies that supported Nwosu Tech Solutions, the supply chains, the partnerships, the contracts. She started mapping it out. Not for revenge, she wasn't there yet, just for information. Just to understand the architecture of the empire she'd helped build and been erased from. What she discovered made her sit back in her chair, heart pounding. Chukwudi's success rested on 3 major government contracts. Those contracts flowed through supplier companies, and those supplier companies, they were vulnerable, badly managed, desperate for better investment and restructuring. Amara looked at her computer screen, at the web of connections spreading out before her, and felt something sharp and clear cut through her mind. She couldn't destroy him, not directly, not yet, but she could buy the ground he stood on, piece by piece, share by share, quietly, patiently. She could become the foundation beneath his empire without him ever knowing. And then, when the moment was right, when he was highest and most confident, she could make a choice. Support him or let him fall. Amara closed her laptop, looked out at Lagos glittering in the darkness. She wasn't the broken woman in a Surulere apartment anymore. She was becoming something else, something patient, something strategic, something dangerous. And Chukwudi Nwosu, celebrating his Forbes cover and his perfect life with Zainab, had no idea that the dead weight he'd discarded was slowly, carefully buying his future. The game had begun. He just didn't know he was playing yet.
4 years later, March 2024. If you walked into the top-floor offices of Okafor Investment Group in Ikoyi, you wouldn't recognize the woman sitting behind the glass desk as the same person who'd cried on a bathroom floor at Eco Hotel. Amara Okafor, at 36, was a force. Not loud, she'd never been loud, but undeniable.
Her office overlooked Lagos Island, floor-to-ceiling windows framing the city like a portrait of conquest. The furniture was understated but expensive, real leather, solid wood, the kind of quality that whispered wealth instead of screaming it. On the wall behind her desk hung something interesting. Not awards, though she had plenty. Not her university degree, though it was impressive. Just a simple, framed quote in elegant script. Silence is not weakness. It is strategy. In 4 years, Amara had built something extraordinary. Okafor Investment Group now managed over 2 billion naira in assets. Properties across Lagos, Abuja, and Accra. Tech investments in 3 countries. A portfolio that made serious people take notice. But the real genius was in what she'd acquired quietly. Remember those supplier companies that supported Chukwudi's tech empire? The vulnerable ones, with bad management and desperate owners? Amara owned controlling shares in 4 of them now. Not through Okafor Investment Group. That would be too obvious. She'd created shell companies, used proxy investors, moved like smoke through the business world, buying pieces of infrastructure that Chukwudi relied on without ever appearing on a single document that bore his name. CloudServe Nigeria, Chukwudi's main data hosting partner, Amara controlled 51%. Tech Supply Lagos, the company that provided all his hardware, she was the majority shareholder. Print Flow Solutions, they handled all his documentation, contracts, client materials. Her company. Even his office building in Victoria Island, the gleaming tower with Nwosu Tech Solutions on massive letters on the side. The property management company that owned it had recently been acquired by a mysterious investment firm. That firm's silent partner? Amara Okafor. Chukwudi stood on a foundation of sand. He just didn't know the tide was controlled by his ex-wife. But Amara wasn't finished. The final piece, the one that would matter most, came 6 months before the wedding. She discovered something buried in old incorporation documents, something her lawyers found during a routine audit of her early acquisitions. Chukwudi's company, Nwosu Tech Solutions, had been incorporated in 2016 using an investment of 50 million naira listed as seed capital from private investors. No names attached, just a numbered account. That account belonged to Amara's father. But Chukwudi had filed paperwork claiming the investment was his own money, forged documents showing personal savings that never existed. He'd stolen credit for 50 million naira that wasn't his, then built his empire on that lie. It was fraud. Clear, documentable, prosecutable fraud. Amara's lawyer, a sharp woman named Chiamaka, sat across from her with the evidence spread out on the conference table. "This is enough," Chiamaka said quietly. "We take this to the Corporate Affairs Commission, maybe even EFCC. His company gets frozen, assets seized. He could face criminal charges." Amara studied the documents. 4 years of patience, 4 years of strategy. And here it was, the weapon that could destroy him with a single phone call. "No," she said softly. Chiamaka blinked. "No?" "No." Amara closed the folder. "Not yet. I want him higher first. I want him so confident in his success that he can't see the cliff edge. Then, when he's convinced he's untouchable, we move." "That's cold, Amara." She smiled faintly. "No, Chiamaka. That's strategic." 1 week later, her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. "Hello?" "Amara." The voice was hesitant, familiar. "It's Obiana." Her brother. 4 years of silence, and now this. "What do you want, Obi?" He paused. "I heard about your company, about what you've built. It's all over the business networks. People are talking about Okafor Investment Group like it's the next big thing." And I was wrong." His voice cracked slightly. 4 years ago, I chose a job over my sister. I believed his lies instead of your truth. I was stupid, and I'm sorry." Amara leaned back in her chair, looking out at Lagos, feeling nothing. "You were worse than stupid, Obi. You were disloyal." I know, and I've regretted it every day since. I took a shaky breath. The job he promised, he fired me after 18 months, said I wasn't innovative enough. Used me for access to our family's network, then threw me away like garbage, just like he did to you. And now you want what? Forgiveness? A job? No. I mean, yes, I want your forgiveness, but I don't deserve a job. I needed you to know that you were right about everything. And I'm sorry I didn't stand by you when it mattered.
Amara was quiet for a long moment. She could feel the old hurt, the old anger, but it felt distant now, like something that happened to a different person. I forgive you, Obi, she said finally, but I don't forget. You taught me that blood doesn't guarantee loyalty. That was a painful lesson, but a useful one. I understand, he sounded defeated. Amara, one more thing. He's getting married, Chukwudi, to Zainab, next month. I know, I saw it on Instagram. He's been talking about you, saying if you show your face at the wedding, it'll prove you're still bitter, still stuck. He's actually hoping you'll come so he can humiliate you in front of everyone. She smiled slowly. Is that so? Don't go, Amara, please. He'll just use it to destroy you again. Thank you for the warning, Obi, but I can take care of myself. She ended the call. The invitation arrived 2 days later, hand-delivered to her office by courier. Thick, expensive paper, gold embossing, the kind of wedding invitation that screamed wealth. Her assistant, an efficient young woman named Tony, brought it in with wide eyes. Ma, this just came for you. It's from... I know who it's from. Amara took the envelope, dismissed Tommy with a gentle smile. Alone in her office, she opened it. The invitation itself was ostentatious. Photos of Chukwudi and Zainab looking like a magazine spread. Join us as we celebrate our love in flowing script. The venue? Echo Hotel and Suites, the Grand Ballroom, March 23, 2024. But it was the handwritten note inside that made her pause. Amara, I know we haven't spoken in years, but Zainab and I would be honored if you'd attend. Show Lagos that there are no hard feelings, that you've moved on. After all, success is the best revenge, right? And I think we can both agree I've succeeded beyond either of our wildest dreams. It would mean a lot to have you witness this new chapter. Chukwudi. The condescension dripped from every word. The casual cruelty wrapped in false civility. He wanted her there to be a prop in his narrative, the bitter ex-wife who had to watch him win, final proof that he'd made the right choice leaving her behind. Amara set the invitation on her desk and laughed, actually laughed. Her phone buzzed immediately. Ngozi, of course. Her friend had a sixth sense for drama. Please tell me you're not going to that wedding. Why wouldn't I go? Amara said lightly. I've been personally invited. Amara, no. This is a trap. He wants to parade you around like a trophy of his success. Don't give him the satisfaction. Who said I'd be giving him satisfaction? What are you planning? Ngozi's voice went sharp. I know that tone. That's your strategy tone. What did you do? Nothing yet. Amara picked up the invitation again, studying it. But wouldn't it be interesting if I went? Interesting? You'll be walking into a room full of people who mocked you, who believed his lies, who called you dead weight while he took credit for your work. Exactly. Exactly? Ngozi made a frustrated sound. Amara, I love you, but sometimes your poker face is terrifying. What do you know that I don't? Amara smiled at the Lagos skyline. Everything. Over the next 3 weeks, Amara moved like a chess master in the endgame. She scheduled a private meeting with Chief Adebayo Williams, Zainab's father. A powerful man, former government minister, now a respected businessman.
a man who valued honor above all else. She brought documents to that meeting. Not all of them, just enough. The incorporation papers, the forged signatures, the investment records from her father's account. Chief Williams studied them in silence, his face growing darker with each page. "Does my daughter know about this?" he asked finally. "I don't know, sir, but I thought you should." He looked up at her, his eyes sharp. "Why are you showing me this now? Why not 4 years ago?" "4 years ago, I was powerless. Now, I'm not. I'm not asking you to do anything, Chief Williams. I'm just providing information. What you do with it is your choice." He closed the folder. "You're going to the wedding?" "Yes, sir." "And you're planning something?" "I'm planning to tell the truth, that's all. The truth has a way of revealing itself at the right moment."
Chief Williams studied her for a long time. Then he nodded slowly. "My daughter chose poorly, both in her actions and her husband. I've known this for some time, but I wanted her to be happy." He paused. "But honor matters more than happiness. Truth matters more than comfort." "Yes, sir, it does." When Amara left that meeting, she knew the pieces were in place. Back in her office, she called Chiamaka, her lawyer. "The wedding is in 1 week. I need you to prepare 2 packages, one for the Corporate Affairs Commission, one for the press. Full documentation of the fraud. But don't file anything yet. Wait for my signal." "What signal?" "You'll know it when you see it." Amara paused. "Also, I need you at the wedding. As my +1. "You're bringing your lawyer to your ex-husband's wedding?" Chiamaka laughed. "That's the most you thing I've ever heard." "I like to be prepared." The day before the wedding, Ngozi came to Amara's apartment, no longer in Surulere, now a beautiful place in Ikoyi with a view of the water. "Last chance to back out," Ngozi said, watching her friend choose between dresses. Amara held up 2 options. One was simple, elegant, understated. The other was stunning. A traditional Nigerian design in deep royal blue with gold threading. Not flashy, but undeniably beautiful. The kind of dress that commanded attention without begging for it. "The blue one," Ngozi said softly. "If you're going to walk into the lion's den, look like a queen." Amara smiled. "My thoughts exactly." That evening, as the sun set over Lagos, Amara stood by her window, the wedding invitation in her hand. Tomorrow, Chukwudi Nwosu would marry Zainab Williams at Echo Hotel, the same venue where he'd called her dead weight 4 years ago, where he'd humiliated her in front of 500 people. Tomorrow, he expected her to arrive broken, desperate, a cautionary tale about women who couldn't keep their men. He had no idea that the woman arriving wasn't coming to witness his triumph. She was coming to reveal his lies. Not with screaming, not with drama, not with the bitterness he expected. With documents, with evidence, with the patient, careful strategy of someone who'd spent 4 years building not just wealth, but power. Amara set down the invitation and smiled at her reflection in the window. "Tomorrow," she whispered to herself, "Lagos learns the truth." And somewhere across the city, in his Lekki mansion, Chukwudi Nwosu slept soundly, dreaming of his perfect wedding day, completely unaware that he'd invited his own destruction to the ceremony. The game was over. He just didn't know it yet. March 23rd, 2024. Wedding Day. Echo Hotel glittered like a jewel box under the Lagos sun. White and gold decorations everywhere. Roses imported from Kenya. Champagne flowing like water. The grand ballroom transformed into something from a fairy tale. Outside, luxury cars lined up. Paparazzi jostled for position. Social media influencers live-streamed their arrivals. The hashtag #ForeverChukzi was already trending across Nigerian Twitter. Inside, 500 guests filled the ballroom. Lagos elite, tech entrepreneurs, government officials, society people who measured success in brands and buildings. They sipped champagne and whispered about the couple of the hour. Zainab Williams looked every inch the Instagram bride. Her dress, custom designed, purportedly costing 15 million naira, sparkled under the crystal chandeliers. Her makeup was flawless, her smile practiced and perfect for the 3 videographers capturing every angle. Because yes, the wedding was being live-streamed. Zainab had insisted. 120,000 people were watching in real time as Lagos's most talked-about couple prepared to say their vows. Chukwudi stood at the front of the room in a tailored tuxedo, looking like a man who owned the world. And why wouldn't he? Forbes Africa's Tech Entrepreneur of the Year, net worth in the hundreds of millions, about to marry a woman who made him look even better. He was winning. And he knew it. At exactly 3 p.m., as the ceremony was set to begin, something rippled through the crowd. Whispers started near the entrance. Heads turned. Phones came out. Because Amara Okafor had just arrived. She stepped into the ballroom, and for a moment, just a moment, everything stopped. The royal blue traditional dress fit her perfectly. Gold threading caught the light with every movement. Her hair was styled simply but elegantly. Minimal jewelry, just her grandmother's gold earrings. No designer labels screaming for attention. She didn't need them. She carried herself like a woman who knew exactly who she was and what she was worth. The whispers exploded. "Is that Amara Okafor? I heard she was invited, but I didn't think she'd actually come. She looks incredible. Wait, that's Chiamaka Obi with her, the corporate lawyer. Why would she bring a lawyer to a wedding?" Amara walked through the crowd with quiet grace, not rushing, not hiding, just walking, her lawyer beside her, toward a seat in the middle of the room. Not in the back, not in the shadows, right where everyone could see her. Chukwudi spotted her. His confident smile flickered for just a second, recovered quickly. He leaned toward his best man, muttered something, laughed, but it sounded forced. Zainab saw her too. Her perfect smile tightened. She grabbed Chukwudi's arm, whispered urgently in his ear. But the ceremony had to proceed. The live stream was running, the guests were watching. There was no turning back now. As Amara sat down, she caught someone's eye across the room. Chief Adebayo Williams, Zainab's father. He gave her the smallest nod, acknowledgement, alliance. She nodded back. The ceremony began. Vows were exchanged, rings placed. The officiant pronounced them husband and wife. They kissed. The crowd applauded. All according to plan, all perfect for the cameras. Then came the reception. This was where Chukwudi had planned his moment, his speech, the one where he'd talk about his journey, his success, and subtly remind everyone, especially Amara, how far he had risen. He took the microphone, his smile wide and confident. "Friends, family, honored guests," he began, his voice booming through the speakers. "Thank you all for being here on this incredible day. This is more than just a wedding. It's a celebration of love, yes, but also of what's possible when you refuse to let anything hold you back." Polite applause. Guests leaned forward, champagne in hand. "My journey hasn't been easy," Chukwudi continued, warming to his theme. "I've had to make difficult choices. I've had to walk away from situations that were comfortable but limiting. I've had to prioritize vision over sentiment." His eyes drifted towards Amara, deliberate, making sure everyone noticed. "Some partnerships are meant to be temporary," he said smoothly. "Stepping stones, not destinations. And there's no shame in that. Some people are built for the journey to the top. Others are built for other things." Uncomfortable laughter rippled through the crowd. Everyone knew what he meant.
Everyone knew who he meant.
The crowd applauded, louder now. Some even cheered. Chukwudi handed the microphone back, looking satisfied, looking victorious. Looking like a man who just won. That's when Chief Adebayo Williams stood up. The room quieted immediately. When a man like Chief Williams stands, people pay attention. Former minister, respected elder, the father of the bride. Everyone expected a touching speech, a blessing for his daughter, perhaps some wisdom about marriage. What they got was something entirely different. "If I may," Chief Williams said, his voice carrying natural authority, "before we proceed with the festivities, there's something that needs to be addressed." Chukwudi's smile faltered. "Sir, I'm sure whatever it is can wait until—" "It cannot." Chief Williams' tone was ice. "Sit down, Mr. Nwosu." The room went completely silent. The livestream viewers multiplied as people started sharing frantically. Something was happening, something big. Chief Williams turned to address the entire ballroom. "I raised my daughter to value truth and honor above all else. Unfortunately, it appears she has chosen to align herself with a man who values neither." Gasps erupted. Zainab jumped to her feet. "Daddy, what are you—" "Sit down, Zainab." His voice was gentle but firm. "You'll want to hear this too." He pulled out a folder, the same one Amara had given him. 2 weeks ago, I was presented with evidence regarding Mr. Nwosu's business practices. Specifically, regarding the founding of Nwosu Tech Solutions, the company we're all here celebrating, the foundation of his supposed empire. Chukwudi's face had gone pale. "Sir, I don't know what lies you've been told." "These aren't lies, Mr. Nwosu. These are incorporation documents, bank records, documents that show in 2016 your company received 50 million naira in seed capital. Capital you have publicly claimed as your own personal investment." Chief Williams held up papers for the crowd to see. Cameras zoomed in. The live stream was going insane. Except it wasn't your money, was it? It was an investment from the Okafor family, from Amara's father specifically. An investment you later claimed as your own through forged documentation. The room exploded. Shouts, gasps, phones out everywhere. Chukwudi stumbled forward. This is absurd. Who told you this?" Chief Williams looked directly at Amara. Everyone's eyes followed. She stood slowly, gracefully, met Chukwudi's terrified gaze with perfect calm. "I did," she said simply. The livestream viewers hit 200,000 and kept climbing. Screenshots were already flooding Twitter, Instagram, WhatsApp groups across Nigeria. "You built your empire on stolen capital," Amara continued, her voice steady and clear. "You used my family's money, claimed it as your own, and then erased me from the narrative. For 4 years, you've been celebrated as a self-made man. But you're not self-made, Chukwudi. You're fraud wearing an expensive suit." "She's lying," Chukwudi shouted, but his voice cracked. "She's bitter. She's been bitter for years, and now she's—" "The Corporate Affairs Commission will receive full documentation tomorrow morning," Chiamaka spoke up, standing beside Amara. "As will several media outlets. The evidence is irrefutable. Bank transfers, forged signatures, everything." Board members in the audience were standing now. Investors were pulling out phones, making urgent calls. Chukwudi's carefully built house of cards was collapsing in real time. "But that's not even the best part," Amara said. And her voice carried a note of something that wasn't quite satisfaction, more like completion. "Do you want to know what I've been doing for the past 4 years, Chukwudi, while you were celebrating your success and calling me dead weight?" He stared at her, speechless. "I've been buying your empire, piece by piece. CloudServe Nigeria, I own 51%. Tech Supply Lagos, majority shareholder. Printflow Solutions, mine. Even this building, the office tower you're so proud of, the property management company that owns it belongs to my investment group." The room was dead silent except for the sound of phones clicking, recording,
live streaming this moment to the world. You don't stand on an empire, Chukwudi. You stand on sand, and I control the tide. Chukwudi collapsed into a chair, his face ashen, reality crashing down on him. Zainab was crying now, mascara running. Not beautiful tears, real ones, ugly and desperate. She turned on Chukwudi, her voice shrill. You told me she was nothing. You told me you built this yourself. How could you lie to me? Zainab, please, don't touch me. She yanked away from him. You've ruined everything. Do you know what this means? For me? For my reputation? She wasn't concerned about the fraud, just about how it made her look. She grabbed her dress and ran toward the exit, followed by her bridesmaids. The cameras caught every moment. The live stream was trending #1 in Nigeria, Kenya, Ghana. The hashtag had changed from Forever Chukwudi Z to Chukwudi Exposed. Board members in the audience were standing now. Investors were pulling out phones, making urgent calls. Chukwudi's carefully built house of cards was collapsing in real time. Chukwudi sat alone at his wedding table, surrounded by expensive flowers and untouched champagne, completely destroyed. Amara walked toward him, slowly, deliberately. He looked up at her, and for the first time in 6 years, she saw him without the armor, without the confidence. Just a small man who'd built everything on lies. Why? He whispered. Why did you wait so long? Why let me get this far just to... Because, Amara said quietly. Because I needed you to understand something. Power built on fraud doesn't last. Success built on stolen foundations eventually crumbles. You tried to bury me, Chukwudi. You tried to make me disappear. But the truth doesn't disappear. It waits. She turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and one more thing. I'm not pressing criminal charges. The evidence will go to the commission, yes. Your company will face consequences, absolutely. But I'm not sending you to prison. He looked up, hope flickering in his eyes. I'm doing something worse, Amara continued. I'm letting you live with what you've done. Live with the knowledge that everything you built was stolen. That everyone now knows you're a fraud. That the empire you were so proud of belongs to the woman you called dead weight. She smiled. Not cruel, just true. Enjoy your wedding day, Chukwudi. And then she walked out of that ballroom, Chiamaka beside her, Ngozi waiting outside with a huge smile, leaving behind the ruins of a man who'd tried to destroy her and instead destroyed himself.
Outside, the Lagos evening was beautiful. Golden light, cool breeze from the water. Amara stood on the steps of Echo Hotel, looking out at the city that had watched her fall and now witnessed her rise. Her phone was buzzing non-stop. News alerts, messages, interview requests. She turned it off. What now? Ngozi asked softly. Amara took a deep breath, felt lighter than she had in years. Now? Now I go home, have some wine, maybe watch the chaos on Twitter for a bit. She smiled. And tomorrow, I get back to building my actual empire. The real one. The one built on truth. You know the video is everywhere, right? Chiamaka said, scrolling through her phone. 3 million views and counting. Chukwudi Exposed is trending in 12 countries. You literally broke the internet. Amara laughed. Actually laughed. Free and genuine. Good, she said simply. Let the internet have its moment. Truth deserves to be heard. As they walked toward her car, Ngozi put an arm around her friend. How does it feel? Amara thought about it. About the 4 years of pain and strategy, about rock bottom and slow climbs, about staying silent when she wanted to scream, about building when others said she was broken. It feels, she said finally, like justice. Not revenge, not bitterness, just the clean, clear satisfaction of truth finally standing in the light. The woman who'd been called dead weight had just proven that patience, strategy, and integrity weighed more than all of Chukwudi's lies combined.
And as her car pulled away from Echo Hotel, leaving behind the wedding that became a funeral for a fraudulent empire, Amara Okafor smiled at the Lagos skyline and knew one thing with absolute certainty. She had won. Not by becoming like him, but by becoming better than she ever knew she could be. Sometimes the person they tried to destroy becomes the person they should have cherished. Sometimes silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. And sometimes the dead weight they throw away is the anchor they needed all along. The storm had passed, and Amara Okafor stood whole, vindicated, and free.
If this story moved you, if it reminded you that falling doesn't mean you're finished, that silence can be strategy, that your comeback is always possible, then help us keep sharing these stories. Hit that subscribe button, not just for entertainment, but because every subscription supports our mission. Through this channel, we partner with organizations that help abuse survivors, that empower women rebuilding their lives, that give voices to those who've been silenced. Your click makes a real difference. And in the comments below, tell us, where are you watching from? Have you ever had to rebuild after someone tried to break you? What part of Amara's story spoke to your soul? Because this isn't just a story, it's a reminder that dignity can't be stolen, only surrendered, that the truth always surfaces, it just needs patience, that the person who tries to bury you doesn't know you're a seed. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of this community of hope, of truth, of comebacks. And remember, your silence today might be your strategy for tomorrow. Your rock bottom might be your foundation. Your ending might just be your beginning. Until next time, family, stay strong, stay strategic, and never let anyone convince you that you're less than you are. The best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's becoming so undeniably successful that the lies about you become irrelevant. Now go build your empire.